Daniel, this week's conversation is one for the soul to actually come through and be made manifest, live your soul's truth, how to actually do that with vision, with faith, and man, all the stuff that's in the way of that actually coming through, our own self-doubts, our self-criticism. Oh man, there's so much stuff in there that inhibits us from being who we really were always meant to be, who our soul's expression is designed for us to be here. Man, Danielle LaPorte, this conversation is incredible. So how to actually live your soul's truth. If you've ever had that question, this is the conversation to tune in for you. As always, if you love the Inspired Evolution podcast, if you're enjoying these conversations, they're sparking your curiosity, please feel free to hit subscribe, hit the bell notification icon. It keeps us engaged with you. We love to connect. Connection's our highest value. We live to serve, so it'd be a blessing to stay in touch with you. And as always, if anything emerges from the podcast, we highly encourage you to leave us a comment. I love interacting with you guys in that space. The forums and the conversations we've been having completely light me up. Tune into this amazing conversation for manifesting your soul's biggest dreams into reality. Welcome to the Inspired Evolution, and it is such a treat to be here today. We have with us Danielle LaPorte. Danielle, how are you?
I'm great now. That was amazing. If I needed caffeine before, I don't need it now.
Well, that is the intention. No, I'm kidding. That wasn't the intention, but perhaps it is, or it should be. For those tuning in to Danielle for the first time, she's a best-selling author. She's an inspirational speaker, entrepreneur, and blogger. Her 3 books have an emphasis on conscious goal setting and entrepreneurship. That is really just scratching the surface. There is so much depth to what we cover, and there's not just depth, there's breadth as well. There's so many nooks and crannies that we can dig into in today's conversation. It's really a pleasure to have you here, Danielle.
Thanks. I'm excited to figure out where we're gonna go.
To start in a place which is probably most vulnerable for me to start, and just to honor the conversation that is most available and most present on my heart, is this dance between personal development and self-criticism. You've written quite a bit on this, and I'd love to sort of see if we can unpack some of that just from the perspective of, I think personal development is incredible. Obviously, the podcast is dedicated to people growing and evolving. And I know, a lot of your work supports, so many people to come home to who they truly are. But then there is also this added aspect to it, which you sometimes boldly referred to as self-hate. But it's almost like, there is this potential for personal development to really perpetuates being hard on ourselves and actually being even more critical of ourselves in some way. I'd love to hear you talk to that.
My personal experience has been, I was doing all the things. I was doing the workshops and the juicing and the mala beads and the incanting, all of it. And I had to ask myself, when I looked at my full schedule, just like I had an astrology reading and I had a shamanic situation, and then I had to go, and then I would check off if I did my yoga. I was tracking that. I would check it off. I'd do a little smiley face on the days that I did my yoga. And I had to ask myself, was everything I was doing to be well actually helping me to be more well, or was it stressful? And the answer was, it was definitely stressful. And it's still something I struggle with in terms of my own devotion and aspiration. But where is it coming from? And I think what I've learned, an observation is, I think one person can do use the same tools to expand themselves, to get closer to God, whatever it is that they're going for. But it's all about the motivation. So are you doing the workshops? Are you doing the kriyas? Are you doing the cleanses because you think you're defective, because you believe in a punitive God, because you're trying to burn karma, which is a good thing, from a place of fear because you don't want any more karma, is like there this really just this underlying anxiety to all of that. And underneath that anxiety, like you use the term, like made the bold statement, like here it is, like self-loathing and self-hatred for even those of us who have been at this a while and we are like confident and have healthy relationships with our ego. Self-loathing is driving a lot of this, which is just a construct of the ego, which we can talk about. So are you doing all those things from that, let's just call that shadowy side?
Mm.
Or are you doing the exact same things from a place of aspiration and expansion and lots of compassion and exploration and maybe even like a little bit of playfulness to it?
Mm.
Is like joy inducing. Yeah, and that's a dance for most people that I know. For me, I mean, I only ever speak from experience, but that's my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that so eloquently. One of the things that I revel like in when I'm in your writings is the slipperiness of things and just how you manage to, for me anyway, for those tuning in, I highly recommend getting amongst Danielle's work. Obviously she's here. But just there's this slipperiness to things where it's like, yep, personal development is really helping me, but at the same token it's like, wait, but what's underpinning that and what can it potentially reveal? And it's kind of a slippery slope to kind of go down there, but there's some real bedrock things that we can hit. And one of the things that comes to me is how does one navigate that, like in your own journey, perhaps, the impulse to change is usually steps driven by, by a challenge. But then sometimes we follow pleasure as well. And I know that, I'm almost spring loading a conversation around, the desire, the work that you've done on desire. But we generally, have pain that we're kind of running away from. And how do we not create from a place of, that self-loathing, because there's the impulse to change is generally stirred by something potentially being inadequate almost.
Mm-hmm. Well, the missing ingredient, or the key ingredient, I should say, that's often missing is compassion.
Mm.
So you're right. Suffering catapults us, suffering wakes us up. The function of suffering is awakening.
Mm.
And there's still that split. There's still two sides of that equation to be on. So suffering is a call to awakening. Are you going to punish yourself more for the suffering? Or are you just going to take it as the learning and approach it as compassion? So it's like, one manifests cancer, bankruptcy, betrayal, divorce, some kind of self-sabotage thing. You go into painful passage in your life, whether it's like a full tilt breakdown, dark night of the soul, or it's just like extended agony, the rough stuff. And when you're in it, are you just thinking, I'm such a loser for manifesting this. I got to do everything I can to cleanse, to detoxify, to get right, to be better, to be more enlightened, if only I were more enlightened or evolved. Or so many people relate to this, like, I'm still dealing with this issue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still, after all I've done, it's coming up again and again. I must be defective. That's one way to do it. It's just going to draw it out even longer. The other way to do it is, I'm suffering. And that's that. I'm suffering and I'm going to meet myself with compassion, with understanding. I'm just going to bring all of this into my heart. The same neuroses, the same addictions, the repeated patterns. I mean, for myself, it's this, like, I am most critical of the repetition of my own bullshit. Like, I'm staying up too late again. I said that again. I'm still attracting this again. That just is backwards. That is so not helpful. It's just more pain on top of pain. And what the pain is asking for is, I see you. I love you. I have space for you. Come in, come in. And just like you would, I mean, we've all heard this from different mystics, but just like you would treat a child who's wounded, who's acting out, you're not going to say, you're tired again, you're crying again. You would say, just come. And, you know, anybody who's been in love or is a caretaker or a parent knows, like, I got more than enough for you. You want a hug, one hug? I got 10 hugs. You're addicted again. I'm going to come and pick you up again. I got lots to give you. Doesn't mean it's easy, but you're there for the long haul. Like, we need to be there for the long haul with ourselves compassionately. And that's the medicine. That is the transformative medicine. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm reflecting in on my own processes as well. And yeah, I love just how much has been revealed in just so succinctly. Yeah, I often find that being even more aware of potentially some of my own stuff, when you see it again, like you said, that first route is like, oh shit, and like, you know, I sort of take on this kind of even more self-criticism, because it's like I'm aware of this stuff now and it's emerging, you know, and it's kind of like, how do I not throttle myself for that, you know? It's like, shit, like, how am I calling this in? Like, if I'm consciously creating my reality and life is happening for me, not with me, then why did I call this in, you know, of all things I could have called in? And then there's that beration that's available, and I really am grateful for you just pinning the kind of the heart of it to self compassion.
Self-compassion. And this is, no one's alone in this. Like, I've seen this, you know, I forget the name of a Tibetan Buddhist monk. I wish I could remember his name. Who, you know, was living a monastic life since a child, highly revered, like a master, a real leader in his sect of Buddhism, and decided to become a wandering yogi, which is like an actual thing. Like, I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm going to go from being revered and fed and in my silk robes, which is not necessarily an easy path, but I'm leaving all of that behind. And I'm leaving with, I'm penniless. I'm going to beg and see where life takes me for a period of years. So he went on that journey. But the point of the story is, this is someone who had been meditating for decades and was giving people deep, profound spiritual counsel, and was suffering from anxiety attacks. You know, so it's like, it happens. No one is impervious to it. Doesn't mean that depth of suffering happens for everybody, but so many great teachers will tell you, I was leading hundreds, thousands of people, and I've been doing the work. And then, you know, another story is like Henry Nouwen, great Dutch priest, philosopher, revered in his community, kind of had a deep relationship. I think he wasn't explicit about it in his writing, but seemed to be that he fell in love with somebody, maybe just in a platonic way, but became deeply attached to somebody. And that friendship in his life didn't work out. And this spiraled him into the depths of despair. He, you know, in his own words, could no longer feel God. This is a long practicing holistic priest. So, you know, if we're falling off the wagon, if we still have the same patterns in our relationships, not alone, not alone.
And why is that so healing to hear, Danielle? Like, I feel it in myself, and I feel like I'm not alone. And you know, others have gone through this just before me, and it doesn't even have to be so spiritual. You know, it can just be like, I remember when I used to go to like to the fair, and I used to go to the fair, and I'd watch people jump on rides, and it was like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. You know, there's kind of like this healing element to knowing that actually I'm not alone in it, and I'm going through this thing, that it's just part of the human experience. Why is that so healing? Like, why does it make it easier knowing that other people have gone through it, so it should make it easier for me? Like, because it sounds intuitive when you say it out loud, but what, like, how come like that is the case?
Because I think it speaks to the primary wound, which is this illusion of separation. We come in, we feel separate from God. I think when we incarnate, we agree to buy into that optical illusion
Mm.
that we are alone, that we're separate from source, that we've got to kind of get through this on our own. And just to know in this dimension, this human reality, that having a shared experience is super comforting. Uh, yeah, it's just, I think it's just comforting 101.
Mm. Thank you. There was something in there that you mentioned earlier on that I definitely wanted to circle back to. So I'm going to take the opportunity to do that, which is everything I'm doing to be well really making me well? Or is it just
Mhm.
stressing me out? You sort of just tucked that in there like a sentence. But it's that's huge.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think you shared a little bit about your story, but like when I feel into that, it's yeah, just even just programming in a morning ritual sometimes, it's and I've had the kind of the blessing of researching you and looking into the background of stuff. But yeah, like is your morning ritual serving you or is it causing more anxiety if you miss it kind of conversation? Can you tell us a little bit more about, can you
Mhm.
help us unpack that a little bit further?
Well, why are you doing what you're doing?
Mm,
I think this is what I recommend to everybody because, and
mm,
I've done this myself, would never
mm,
recommend anything I haven't done myself. Do an inventory. I call it your self-help laundry list.
huh,
Do an inventory of all the things, of the yoga and the coaching and the books you're reading and the book clubs and the spin class and the supplements and all of it, all of it, all of it.
mm,
And like, which one of those feels like an obligation? Put a check, just like obligation, mark that. Which one of those feels too expensive? Doesn't mean you're going to stop doing it. Sometimes we can do something that's like, luxury pricing, but we're lit up. It feels so valuable. We keep doing it. Which one of those feels, what do you have resentment going to? Is there anything that feels like performative, like I look good if I do this?
mm,
Which one of those things do you look forward to doing? Do you feel lit up and expanded, feels really nourishing? It's like this is what's another word for inventory? It's an audit. It's a
mm.
self-help
Taking
audit.
stock.
You're gonna take stock and the stuff that you're for myself, the stuff where I felt needy, like there was a degree of panic to it, like I want this astrologer to tell me how it's going. And I'm going to get an Eastern astrology reading and I'm going to get a Western astrology reading just because I want backup in case I don't like what the first guy said.
Mhm,
So if there's panic, it needs to stop. That's coming from shadow, subconscious. That's some kind of wounded knee jerk thing.
mm,
The stuff that felt like I had to force myself to get there,
mm.
done. Stop doing that. Doesn't mean like, do you always want to go to therapy? Well, personally, I always want to go to therapy. I so look forward to my therapy sessions. Um, and my overall experience, and I'm always in this. The less is more. Simpler is better. I just need to cough 1 second. Because I'm finding that the less I do to perfect and to polish, well, the more space I have, the more money I save in some cases. But also, like, there's just that simplicity allows me to go deeper with each practice, like, really get to know it, really do this meditation and just be with that. And I'm not stuffing my calendar, I'm not stuffing myself. And the discomfort of that is, oh, I'm just pushed to rely on myself more. And this for me is like the ultimate journey. Like, I am alone. I am alone in finding my way back to God. That's it. To realize that I'm not alone at all. Like, it's where the duality becomes non dualistic. Um, And I did some really practical stuff in terms of what was on my self-help laundry list. Like I decided I was just going to stop with anything that was prognosticative. So like astrology readings, no more psychics, no mediums, no channelings, none of that. Nobody was going to give me a hint about the future. Stopped. My life has not fallen apart. I still make great decisions. I still pick good men. Nobody knows. I mean, we can go down this path about what I think about all of that, but
Please.
well, I think there's the bigger question of why give that power to somebody else. Now, this is also coming from someone. I have an energy healer who is on our payroll. I believe in the healthy value of having someone with the gift of sight on your team, because they will see things you can't necessarily see. And I can do things that they can't do. And that's called well-rounded like business development, at least for me. But esoterically, what I believe is happening is that, not all the time, but I would say with many psychics, mediums, channelers, what they're doing is they are picking up on and looking at possibilities that they can see in your auric field. That's their gift. If you were still, you might be able to hear, see, sense what's in your auric field. If you just sat down, did some practices, and asked yourself. So there's that. There's a lot of people out there who are mediums, channelers, seers, who are not seeing clearly. And that's just life. That's the mess and the beauty of who we are as humans. So you need to go in knowing that that's the odds are, 50-50. Someone's an actual clean, truly talented channel. Thirdly or fourthly, whatever number we're on, it's 50-50, man. Even if someone is really gifted and can see what's going on, they are seeing from the position of where you are at today. So today, your possibilities look like a left turn, a right turn, and a tall, dark stranger. You might have some insight, some growth that happens in the next few weeks that completely change that landscape. And you're still going off of that old story. There's that to consider. And then in terms of, so this is not necessarily this like the same topic, but it's related in terms of healing and working with energy healers. May you be blessed to work with someone of amazing caliber who's transmuted their suffering and is really aspiring to be a conduit of light. And if you find yourself in a dance with a charlatan or someone who's toxic and not clean and dense and ignorant, and because lots of that exists too, may that be your initiation and you get to the other side of that. What A Course in Miracles teaches is that we all have the capacity to heal, but essentially at different times in our lives, we need to turn to somebody else to help us with our healing. So it's temporary, as they would put it. So do I believe, is it my experience, I can work with an energy healer and they can help me psychically, physically, all of that? Yes. Those are the moments when I don't have the capacity, I don't have the capability to do it myself. Are there times when I can offer you something energetically, sonically, just intellectually that could heal you? Yep, because you're just temporarily not seeing your own capacity to do that. And that's the beauty of being together. But eventually you peel all that away and you tap, you're into your awareness that like, you got it. You can heal the tumor, you can fix your business, you can get right with God on your own.
Thank you so much. And I think even as I'm hearing you say that, I'm reflecting on my own belief systems. And I actually, I think even I'm going to be as bold as yourself potentially. Thank you for holding space for this. I feel that actually, when it comes down to healing, it's even then it's up to our own self-receptivity that
Yes.
really shows up, to
Yeah.
receive. And even there, the element of the self is so powerful, because even if I'm sitting in front of a channel or a medium, a healer, it's, there is always like, do I believe this one or do I not? And there's that receptivity. And it's, at the end of the day, it really comes, a lot of it comes back to the self. And I thank you so much. Some part of me always knew that there was always going to be a conversation around self agency emerging, having you here. Um, but when I feel into self agency, one of the biggest conversations that has been present for me recently, and then I heard you talk about it, which I have to go there with you, is you said, I'm going to believe that I'm worth having my prayer answered. And I heard you say this, or I saw it written somewhere. And when this came forward, it was huge for me because, yeah, I'm just going to be completely transparent. In my meditations or in my practice of prayer, I mean, I'd love for you to share in your practice of prayer as well.
Mm.
There would be certain things that I would genuinely feel uncomfortable asking for. And when
Mm.
I actually sat there and I said, why am I afraid of calling that in when it's something so beautiful and so incredible? Why would I not pray for that? And it's like, oh, because for me, the anxiety was that if I pray for it and it doesn't come, then I actually will never be able to believe in prayer again, or I'll
Wow.
lose the belief in my power of prayer,
Stakes are high. Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
I would, and then I sort of, I saw this narrative, which was at the end of it, it was just like, well, that thought process doesn't really serve me, does it? And I
Mhm.
kind of dropped it, and I saw this fear of being afraid to ask for what I wanted. And I was like, surely I'm not alone in that. And so
Mm.
this sentence around, I'm going to believe that I'm worth having my prayers answered.
Mhm.
Can you unpack that for us a little bit
Mhm.
further?
Well, there's a couple layers to that. One, I think it does make things easier. It greases the wheel of manifesting and receptivity if you believe that you're worthy. There's like, there's no question. Worthiness and worthlessness, two sides of the same coin, are just a construct of the ego.
Mm,
Like, we are worth itself. You are the beloved. You are a flame from the fire of creation. There's no question. There's no question whether you deserve to be forgiven. These are silly questions
mhm,
to ask of our souls.
mm,
Do I deserve to be forgiven? Should I be punished? Do I deserve my heart's desire? Do I deserve ease, fulfillment? It's all a yes.
mm,
Love is all a yes. You are worth. However, and the darkness that we're in, the struggle is the ego, the shadow side, the darkness, the density, the ignorance is going to have us play that game. Oh, I'm not worthy, or I am more worthy than you. It's just all about creating division. It doesn't want you to see that we are all worth everybody's in. And most of us, many of us spend our whole lives, decade after
mm,
decade, playing the worth game. And so it's good, and it's so pervasive. It comes up in our prayers. Am I even worthy of asking for this? Like, where I really hit a bottom with this was, I realized this was, I went through a really dark period, for me, a really classical dark night of the soul. And I realized that I did not feel worthy of giving my pain to God, of just saying, carry this burden for me, heal me, take this. Please, you're greater than I. Please do something with my suffering. I was really meeting God with like, I'll do the work. It's okay. It's okay. I'll do the work. I want to be, I'll be grateful. I'll come to you in my suffering with the right attitude. I'm falling apart. but I will come to you responsibly and optimistically.
Muster up.
I'm going to muster it up so that you are going to help me, which is just another version of, I'm going to do all these good things so that you're going to answer my prayers and give me what I want, that I'm working so hard to prove that I'm worthy of. I deserve it, don't I? Let me prove to you how deserving I am. So it's super messed up. That's my super esoteric thing. It's super messed up. But the other part of this is that manifestation is a science. It's a technology. You do not need to feel worthy in order to manifest stuff. Everybody right now can think of somebody in their lives who's just a baller. They are getting shit done. They put their stuff on their vision board and check, check, check. They are hustling. They're getting it. So they have a vision. They have faith. There's an assumption they have faith, and they're meeting faith halfway. And that's like just rinse and repeat stuff. Have the vision, sense it, feel it, smell it, see it very clearly. This is proven. This is not woo. And then you have faith. It's a done deal. I'm open to various things, but this is going to happen. Yeah. And then you do the work. We all know those people who are manifesting machines, conscious manifesting machines, who are still underneath that, alongside that, incredibly unhealed. You know they're doing this to impress their father. You know they've got some kind of complex. It's a childhood thing. You know that guy was bullied and never got over it, and he's just going to be a baller now to never be bullied again. So that's coming from a place of, I do not think I'm worthy, but they're still manifesting the shit out of everything. So do you need to feel worthy? No, you just need to do the science, the work of manifesting, but it'd be way more healing if you moved into, really just unity consciousness, self-compassion, knowing you're so connected to soul and source. And then I would venture to guess that even what you want to go after, once you're in that place of love and awareness, what you want to go after is going to change. I see it happen all the time.
And feeling into that, the desire, like mapping your desires is it's, for me, just feeling into that and probably just projecting all over this space is that, like that conversation for me, I feel, and this is my projection, that
Project away.
requires some element of project away. Some element of it's like, there's going to be a certain amount of work done before you can trust your desires to be of the highest good, right? Like if I just show up and go, oh, yep, my desire is,
you know what, this is a great point.
Lambos and donuts. But yeah, please.
Right. This is a great point about desires that are for the highest good. Is that how you put it?
Yeah.
I think this is a really powerful thing to pray for. Just ask for guidance and support that your what you want. I rarely even use the word desire anymore. That what you want is aligned with higher light. So I pray for the right things, for the correct things as God would have it. And it's an ongoing struggle, but my noticing, this has been like a really active prayer for me this last year, especially with all the world upheaval. Just guide me to wanting the right things. I want less. I want things that include more people. I'm not just wanting for my happiness. I don't have a vision board right now, but if I did, it would look very different than it looked years ago. And even the things I still want, like, so instead of saying, dear universe, I'm so ready for my next life partner, as in this lifetime. Instead of it just being that, there's like a semicolon now with everything. It's like, so that we can serve. It's like we get our delight, but our delight is in service to the collective. Because I think at this point in terms of where humanity is at. If it's not serving the collective, it's just poisoning us. Like, it's got to be helpful or it's toxic. So yeah, this is what my working title for this right now is just, it's inclusive manifesting. But first, like, you hit it, which is help me want for the right thing. And there is a right and there is a wrong. If you want to go in the direction of awakening. Now, like, nothing's wrong. It's all in. There's no such thing as a mistake. But we live in multiple dimensions, and of course there's mistakes. And yeah.
Wow, that was huge for me. Just to reflect that back to you, I'm glad I projected all over that because it got me. That was huge for me to pray for the prayer of just aligning my wants with the wants of the source of creation, and creation itself is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's a massive takeaway for me, because I just want to do also just anchor back into what you were saying, because a lot of your work is it's called goal setting from the outside looking in, but it's not really goal. I don't know. It's the goal setting without actually setting goals in many ways, and I love just the, like, having a vision, and I even today, like, as a coach, and it's remarkable. I'm just going to go there and say it's remarkable just how okay a lot of us are without not having a vision for ourselves. And I'm not saying that you have to have a vision, and if you're not having a vision, you're failing. But even just having the conversation around what is potentially, like, what do I see for myself from my own self agency?
Yes.
Because then you allow someone else's vision to become your reality, and we see that everywhere. And so
Yes.
the vision is so critical and so important, right?
Yes. The vision is the difference between being awake and being asleep.
Mm.
So at this point in my life, I don't have much interest in goals. Like, I still set intentions, and there's things, there's targets I want to hit, like, for sure. But I still have to have a bigger vision about why I'm here, what I'm doing, where we're going, all in service to the higher, which is also the collective. But this is, biblical proverbs, right? Without vision, we perish. And I think without vision, that, it's just the opposite of creativity. It's just decay. And you leave yourself without a vision. We leave ourselves open to darkness. Like, it's just, we become so susceptible to being fed stuff and being hijacked by the darkness. And I think there's a lot of that. I mean, I think we're living in a time of spiritual warfare, essentially. So if you don't know where you're going, some disembodied, really dense energy is just looking for half asleep people to rule. Yeah.
Danielle, listening in and sort of feeling into potentially what some of the listeners may be feeling, or a question that may be present for them is, I've tried visioning, or, I don't really see a vision for myself. I've, been taught this, that it's important for me to have. Where does one begin building out a vision for themselves?
Mm. There's two ways to begin. I'll give you the easy way first, and I'll give you the hard but very fruitful way. First, like, what lights you up? What brings you joy? What are you enthusiastic about? Don't worry about being reasonable. Don't even question. Don't think through yet how you're going to pull it off. It's just
How?
there.
Don't worry about how.
Don't worry about the how. It's like pulsing in your heart. And to know that, like, enthusiasm is high frequency feeling. It's actually a state. Eckhart Tolle speaks so beautifully about this, like, high vibe. So go with enthusiasm. Let it be your guide. It's not foolish. It's not blind. It's not new age. It's not impulsive. It's actually the stuff. It's the elixir. It's a superpower. So what are you enthusiastic about? What would light you up? I also love to ask, like, what's easiest? I don't need to overcomplicate it. It's just like, what can I pull off now with what I've got? Doesn't mean that's the choice. Might mean, like, Okay, this is more uphill, this is more longer term, but so lit up. The other thing to do, this is the harder way, but the payoff is great, is to just to do all the cleansing work. Like this is, for me, so much of my spirituality, and this is what I'm really offer. I have a membership, it's called Heart Centered. And most of the practices that I offer every month, so much to do with cleansing. So it's like, we're going to write and release this. There's bathing rituals, all meditation, at least the meditations I work with an energy healer. We co-design these visualizations. So much to do with just like dissolving illusions, unhinging all the stuck stuff, getting the debris out of your psyche. How do we like rinse away the fear and the constrictions and all those illusions that say you are separate from source? Those are all tools. Most spiritual practice is about some form of cleansing so that you can essentially receive more light from the higher. More consciousness enters you as you take out your psychic garbage. This is how it works. So you want, I forget what even the question was. Oh,
Vision.
about getting clear about what you want to do, vision. Do that cleansing work. Do the shadow work. Have a conversation with your inner child on a regular basis. Really powerful to do this on the dark of the moon, the 2 days before the full moon. Sorry, 2 days before the new moon. It's dark of the moon. And also very powerful to do this on the day of the full moon, is to just contemplate, write about, go for a walk, and look at all the toxic stuff. Where am I afraid? Where am I arrogant? Where am I manipulative? Where am I neurotic? What am I scared of? Where's my paranoia? And just bring the light of your awareness to that. That's the blessing. And you do enough of that, you expand enough, it will become clearer what you want. You're just gonna peel away those layers and like, oh, there's that vision in your heart. There it is. Underneath all that fear, that's what I want to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's really resonating for me. One of the big things that I'm sitting with personally in my life at the moment is letting go. And I know you've mentioned this a few times in this conversation around simplifying. But yeah, really letting go. And one of the drop-ins by some grace that's dropped in is, as I let go, I'm actually letting go into peace. And that sort of reinforced this awareness that, oh, my natural inner nature is actually peace. I'm just letting go
Yes.
of all the stuff that's holding me back from that peace.
Yes.
And it's interesting because when I actually feel into the neuroses of why I'm holding on to things and not letting go, it's so that I can be okay, so I can be at peace. And it's just like, wait a sec. Oh shit, that's counterintuitive. Oh wow, I've got to rewrite a whole new, and this is what I'm hearing you share from, you've got to cleanse. And so the things that are coupling in for me right now is from that place of peace. There's a vision that is naturally emerging for, yeah, and maybe perhaps this alludes to some of the spiritual warfare
And
that you're referring to in our time.
the peace, the awareness that peace is your natural state. I mean, there's so much to unpack or to celebrate about that. It's like all the virtues that come from the heart space: compassion, joy, inclusiveness, gentleness, forgiving, accepting. Those are all natural ways of being. So like, if we're not forgiving, we're just going against our sacred nature. It actually really comes easily. It's just we are literally trained as children to not be accepting, to not be forgiving. Our whole society is set up to go against our natural power. I mean, this is why, we're living in an ego-driven construct. And this is nothing new. This is thousands of years. Like, you're here, you got an ego. But I just finished writing a bit about this, and I can see how, like, you think of those times where your first impulse, or your sweetest impulse is like, you want to forget. You just want to let them off the hook. And then your mind comes in and says, no. Or you just want to be like, they're cool. It's okay that they did that shitty thing again. And then somebody in your life says, no, it isn't.
Mm.
You're like, it's all right. It's all right. And then somebody says, you should sue. But that way of just like, you want it to be easy. It's a divine calling to move towards the easy, graceful thing. And then the small self comes in, and everybody else's small self, and all the small selves have a fucking meeting about it. And we decide to do the complicated, divisive thing and
nice
say,
little pity
no,
party there.
nice little pity party. Don't let them off the hook. It's so much better. You are going to be so much more professional if you come down on them. You're so much stronger. You'll be so much of a baller if you hold that grudge. You're the winner if. No, you're the winner if you forgive. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I want to take us a little bit on that journey of vision and then faith. And, from the listener's perspective, if, faith is a big one. If we don't have faith, where does one begin with faith? It's like, and
Well, you
that's.
begin with your doubt. You begin with your doubt.
Tell us more about how to unpack that, please.
Well, this was a conversation I had with Guru Singh. He's a wonderful Kundalini master in LA. He's like in his late 70s now. A real sage. And I was at his dining room table and I was like, well, what's the whole point of doubt? And he's like, oh, it's for faith. And I was like, that's it. Because why do you need faith? You need faith because you have doubts. If you don't have any doubts, you wouldn't even need faith. You would just be in isness. It'd just be like, I'm good with whatever goes down. Like that's like enlightenment stuff, right? So if you don't have faith, unpack your doubts. And then you need to work constructively with your doubts. So you need to befriend your doubts. Your doubts just want your attention. You need to give compassion to your doubts. You need to analyze, have a conversation with your doubts. Where does this come from? Why am I holding on to this? What's the origin of this? What is all the fear that's the bubble wrap around the doubt? And that'll like help soften the grip with the doubt. And the thing with faith is you can ask for it. This is another thing you can add to your prayer list. Like you don't have to have perfect faith to move on, to make a request. It's just like, dear source, divine mother, divine father, whatever works for you. I'm really having a hard time with faith right now. Please bolster my faith. What a beautiful prayer. Like, I want to do this on behalf of love. I want to get this right in the best healthy way. Help me have faith that I can do that. And then I'll take the next step and the next step. And, this is also a biblical reference, like faith without action is nothing. It's wasted. It's seeds on fallow ground.
Is that meeting it halfway? That's the meeting it halfway that you talk about, yeah?
I think it's meeting it halfway. I think it's just the reality of being multidimensional beings, spiritual beings in these, suitcases called bodies. And we have to act. We live on the earth. We gotta shovel and we gotta show up. Yeah.
Why is service such a great hack?
That's a great question. Oh, dude, that might be one of my favorite questions ever. Service is a great hack, as you put it. Can we define hack? Let's unpack hack just a bit.
Let's go there.
You tell me what you mean by hack.
Well, when in doubt, it's just, hack is just, it's something you can grab onto and just trust that it's going to be there for you, and it gets you there the quickest way possible. For me, in my humble perspective, I obviously.
Okay, so why is service velocity Why is service effective? Efficient?
Graceful,
Yes. Okay.
energized directly to the source. Yeah, I just all of that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
why
yeah.
it's such a great hack.
All that. Uh, because it's what we're here for. Because it's natural. Because it's love. It's love. We want to be fully realized. To be fully realized is to just give love. We're here to receive it. We're here to emanate it. We're here to build on it. It's like, you know, the way love breathes is to serve. It's the most natural thing there is to, and love is, this is my oversimplified version. Your happiness matters as much to me as my own happiness. I don't even have to get into constructs about unity consciousness and oneness, and we all come from the same source and all of that. But it matters to me that you're happy. I want that for you, whatever your definition of that is. And so I want to serve you however I can. And then I realize, I start to do that, feels good. And I realize, wow, we're really connected. Like, yeah. You hurt, I hurt. You're happy, I'm happy.
And then the grand mystery of when, you show up and serve and reciprocity happens. And then it's just like, what life? Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for going there. I really appreciate it. Service is love in action, and love is service. Thank you so much. That is, beautiful. Danielle, oh my God, I want to talk to you about so many other things. I can just do this with you all day. I am conscious that, we have to wrap things up at a certain point. One of my favorite questions to ask, which is the last question, which kind of really speaks to me in a massive way, is what is potentially your vision for the future as a collective? What does inspired evolution mean to you?
Oh, ending with a simple question. Okay. The collective. Well, I've been taught, and I believe and resonate with the possibility that we're in for some more intensity. I think just historically, esoterically, we move in these 2,000-year cycles. The age of Pisces is complete. We are firmly in at the beginning of the age of Aquarius. These cycles have their characteristics and their reasons, and the hallmark of the age of Aquarius is this is all about unity consciousness. We have to include everybody in our plans. It's no man left alone. We only get somewhere better together. How do we typically wake up to love and to choosing unity? It's often through suffering. We can suffer a little. We can suffer a lot. This can be bumpy. This can be a tsunami. And it's really up to us. God's not going to save us from our own choices. So, my prayer right now is really for Christ consciousness to be it, that people are asking for it, courageous enough to embody that. I have my own fears around suffering personally and collectively. So I'm always sprinkling in, just want to add, may all the lessons come mercifully. But I think we have to move to this place of thy will be done. We're coming out of my will be done. And that was really necessary, but now it's thy will be done. And the rewards of that, I can only imagine, are immense. And I just pray for mercy for us. I think we've created hell, actually, on earth. I think this is not the life. This is not the planet that I want to live on. This is absurd. We're in a crisis of morality. Our water is poisoned. Human slavery is still going on in dark, pervasive ways. We're struggling, we're susceptible and conducting sinister forces. I mean, this is awful. Let's just get really real about what is actually, people are starving. I mean, we still intentionally kill, murder massive amounts of people. We still go to war without question. This is insanity. This is insanity. So I want to get sane in my own life. And that's what I'm working to do. And I would love to inspire somebody else. Just anybody want to be sane, which is alignment, which is love, all those virtuous things. Yeah, so may the waking up that we're in be, may it be beautiful. May it be beautiful.
Thank you so much, Danielle. I really appreciate the space you hold for an individual to really come home to themselves in a really graceful way, so that we can better serve that collective awakening that I do believe is underway for ourselves at the moment, as you referred to. Today's conversation, man. For those listening in, it's only been an hour. We have covered so much ground, breadth and depth at the same time. I told you from the outset. Did I not tell you? Yeah, I got to say I told you so. Good old ego, having a pat on the back. So some of the biggest, I guess, themes that really, that conversation around self-agency and empowerment. My personal biggest takeaway was just the reaffirmation of my inner nature being peace, and coming back to allowing myself for a vision to emerge from there, and also to pray for prayer. Those are two real deep rabbit holes for myself, but things that we covered, including, we didn't really mention the word, but the intentionality behind which you show up is everything. It's, are you doing things out of self-hatred, or are you doing things out of like true inspiration, and taking stock of that, like actually practically writing down and going, how does this feel? And I love that about your work, Danielle. It's, it's expansive, it's large, but it's also integrated. It's really a blessing. And that conversation around compassion is huge. And it went from, oftentimes when I hear it, it's pie in the sky, but actually integrating that into our daily life has been huge. And, allowing the things to then, emerge. Like obviously goal setting was always going to be a conversation that came up, but actually unpacking, if we've got a vision, how to access it, and how to go there with faith, and then actually meeting a faith halfway through inspired action is really big for me. Also, I'm really glad we had that little yummy little chat about service as well. Danielle, I'm just so grateful for your time, your energy, your blessings. Having you here today is a massive one, but also I know that it's a lifetime's work that informs, the conversation we've participated in today. So just thank you so much for always showing up, doing the work, and being you. And from the Inspired Evolution audience and myself, we're wishing you all the best.
You are a love bug. Thank you for this. This was great. Yeah, this is a great conversation. And thank you to everybody listening. And wherever you are listening right now, may you be aware of like your deep wellness, and unity is the way to go. Yeah.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, leave us a comment. And if you want to stay in tune for new episodes launching every Monday, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay inspired to evolve.